sound of praise. Shalom. This is EP Samuel here saying Shabbat Shalom. Today will not be a very long broadcast. Just want to take time to connect with the individuals who remain connected. Just want to take time to update you individuals who are planning to make that transfer as we leave. We have already left Facebook, as it will be a medium that will be used simply for motivation on a different level. And that actually is what today's opening, I guess, monologue would be about. It would be about motivating, and we'll get to that in a minute. Still working very hard. Shabbat Shalom to all of you who are here. Still working very hard to build the platform, the subscription-based platform, where today will simply be the information that I share today will be like a snippet of things that we will discuss further in detail with illustrations, with data, with facts, with literature and things that will it will be an enhanced experience. But we're just going to touch on that just a little bit today. I just want to take time today to really to use my platform for more than just motivating others, but making sure that I remain in the motivated zone. I guess I want to start today with a bit of a monologue, and then we'll go into just a very short bit of information setting up for the culmination or the next material on the subject that we're going to discuss today, and that is the Hebrew is you, and that's the formal title that I will be using from this point on. I've kind of played with some ideas or how to explode this information with the caption, but that will be the caption that will remain. The Hebrew is you, and even the Hebrew in you. But we'll get to that in just a minute. Today's monologue, beginning monologue, it's kind of the thing that you will get used to on the new platform. The new platform will house the Yeshua remnant, and that will be a just a portion or a third, I'd say about a fourth of what we will really be the areas that we will be dealing with, who we'll be dealing with on the new platform. And the new platform that is subscription based will not only be the Yeshua remnant, that will be again a third, or I guess you call it a fourth. The others will be portions of the pie that will keep you engaged in every area of your life. I mean this with every bit of everything that's inside of me, that this next 12 to 15 months, you're going to need a resource that gives you information on every subject and platform. So we're just not going to be dealing with the Yeshua remnant and the Hebrew is you, the Hebrew in you. We will be dealing with issues or subjects of politics and health and entertainment, and the other part is going to be just simply Prophet being raw, EP being raw. We're gonna have guest doctors, lawyers, creators. We're going to have authors. We're going to have people who are going to keep you engaged and understanding what's going on with the pandemic and what's going on with COVID, all these things. So we're lining up guests. I am lining up guests right now that will be able to be really a source of media for you on every level, your spiritual, natural, and entertainment level, so that you really have the understanding that I'm not just saying prophetically, this is what I believe is coming. I'm building and providing a platform that will give individuals who choose to be there an opportunity to be connected to material that's just not good material, but it keeps you balanced. Out of everything that's going on right now, the hardest thing that I am encountering with individuals is keeping and creating a balance. So that's what this new platform is going to encompass, everything from the podcast all the way down to individual guests. I'm working very hard trying to secure the individuals to also to come along with this journey. But until such time, keep me in your prayers, and we'll keep that going forward. Okay. Um, in the meantime, today's monologue. I think I'm sensing a little bit of a delay here. Let me see. Let's see. Well, I hope we're not getting a whole lot of delay. I see a bit of a delay on the screen. We're going to continue to move forward. Hopefully it's not too much of a delay. If it is, pardon this. This is actually pre-recorded just a bit earlier in the day so that I'm able to really to keep myself energized throughout the evening. Okay. So today's monologue. Today's monologue it's going to deal with who motivates the motivator. Who motivates the individuals who move you? And how do you respond to such people? Do you understand what it really takes to keep yourself in a position to where you're giving of yourself in such a capacity to where you are not emptying yourself? Funny thing happened not too long ago. I found myself in the kitchen one day getting ready for lunch, and as I was fixing lunch, I heard a phone ring in the other room, and it wasn't my phone. I know that it was my mother's phone. And as the phone rang, I actually went to the other side of the phone in somewhat of a vision or a trance, I guess you could call it. I don't mean trance like prophetically, just follow me. As I'm making lunch, I'm immediately connected to that phone call. And the phone rang in real time in the next room. But in my mind, I was in the phone call. And it was someone on the phone that was asking for my involvement, engagement, asking me prophetically to do something or to see something or to be something. Now, there's no way that I knew who was on the phone, literally, but this is what happened. And I'm standing there and I'm becoming attitudinal as I'm cutting sandwiches and I'm preparing lunch. And there's no real-time reason for that. And so, as I sat there, I was engaging the person that I wasn't actually in the phone call with. And I was saying to them, well, why haven't I heard from you till now? And I won't go into the whole non-conversation of the conversation. But then I found myself, as I disconnected, I seen myself in the vision taking the plate of food to my mother and walking in and acting as if I did not know the conversation was for me or was about me or wanted me to engage. And in the vision, I walked into the bedroom and I placed a plate of food down. And as I placed a plate of food down, I tried to find a way to finagle out of the room without engaging. Then I was catapulted back into the kitchen in real time. And here I am with this plate of food in my hand. And this is one of the ways that I know prophetically it's about to go down. So, In real time, I grabbed the food and I walked into my mother's room, and the phone call was real time going on. And as I put the plate of food down, I heard my mother say, "Let me see if I can find him." And I knew then that everything that I had just experienced was real and it was necessary. And I knew it was real because of the way that prophetically that I engage in the spiritual realm, I knew that it was real, but I didn't want to really deal with it. So as I put the plate of food down, my mother looked at me to see if I was wanting to be engaged, and almost as if it was like a known moment, even by her, I nodded my head, and she put the phone on mute and told me who the person was, and I had to play dumb, not really dumb, but I had to play it off that I didn't already know who was on the phone, as she did not know that I had just had this whole deliberation of situation in the kitchen only moments before this. So I walked, I got the phone, and of course it was a request for me to be prophet. And it really irked me because even though I was able to see the answers that they wanted was not what I was seeing. And I wasn't concerned. I wasn't overly concerned with that. I was more concerned about I am not your personal genie. I'm a human being with a very real spiritual gift. This led me to go down a path over the next over actually before that it was already in it was actually already engaged. It was already engaged probably 2 or 3 weeks prior to that. And I've been asking people this question, and no one seems to have an answer because it's hard to have an answer when you're on the other side of the motivation, when you're on the other side of receiving. But who motivates the motivator? No, don't tell me that your favorite pastor, preacher, teacher, prophet is motivated by the money that you give, because a lot of you don't give any money. A lot of you don't give resources. Many of you don't even call to check to see if your motivator is more than just the vision of something that you see on your screen or in your pulpit, that you engage as a real person. And I know a lot don't want to be engaged as a real person, but we got to stop treating our motivators, our inspirers, our prophets. We got to stop treating them as if they, and I'm talking to people that are engaged in the life of a person of this magnitude. It's important to understand that when a lot of y'all are hard to deal with, whether it's personal, business, family, it's the misconception that is given, uh, the misconception that is taken in many situations is that these are individuals that we find our fulfillment in fulfilling you. But the reciprocity of relationship, I can't even tell you the last time that I was checked on. Not when something seemed to be wrong, but just to find out if there's anything that can be done to keep the motivator motivated. Heck, even if it was superficial or surface, where you just want to make sure that the person who is speaking and giving into your life is of good cheer and good health, so that they can continue to give to your life. That's one thing, and that's fine if you even come from that angle. But do you take the time? When's the last time you took the time to simply send an email, a text? a cash app, and I don't really care how that's taken. It's the truth. A payment does not make the proficient or give proficient value of how the person speaking into your life is doing. Like I said, even if you took the time to simply to check on them to make sure that what you're getting continues to come because you value it, that's beautiful, that's wonderful. But there's another level. Because see, people like myself, even those closest to me, believe that or are not in the belief that it takes double the amount for someone to be able to receive back in this position as to what's given out. It takes a whole lot to separate the worlds of personal and business, to separate the world of prophetic versus professional. There is it's a fine, very fine line, gray line. Because when you're operating under the auspices of everybody needs from you, but they only need from you when they need from you, who motivates your motivator? And how do you know when your motivator is running on fumes? Many don't know their selected choice personally because they deal with them on Instagram and Facebook, on YouTube, and they buy their videos and they go to their conferences and they do all these things. But and then there are some who do. But do you take the time to motivate the motivator? And I know that may be an impossible task, but do you do your due diligence? And don't tell me, well, I do my due diligence. I pay them. I pay them on time, or I buy their latest books. No, but you have to understand that comes from a reservoir of giving. And that is what satisfies the motivator. That's what satisfies the inspirer. In the meantime, I guarantee you that inspirer is looking for significant relationships, be it linear family or congenial family, or be it familiar family. When I mean familiar family, I mean DNA family. They're looking for that relationship, that they can be all out without being expected to be nothing at all. So you gotta understand that a lot of stuff that inspirers, motivators, those who pour into your life, do for your life, it is not something that is not only easy to do because it's not easy. It's not easy to do because it comes from a spiritual place. It's because a lot of y'all are hard to deal with. I mean, you try to create borders, you try to create walls, you try to create the evidence that there is no borders and there are no walls, and then you have individuals who are right there next to you who seemingly understand but don't get it at all. And the expectation is that you, the motivator, the inspirer, you find a place to keep going. Fortunately, many of your motivators find a dark corner or a black room or a way of escape, and that way of escape is searching the unknown for more answers. I have to admit that I have been compelled to find more answers about this life for others during certain dark dispensations of time in my life, not because it's been readily available. It's because when you are isolated in a crowd of many and you grow weary of trying to enunciate or articulate your need as an inspirer, motivator to release or to receive, when you cannot find it, what you do find is that space where you understand. And that's really where I've been for some time now. And so, from someone who's speaking into your life, I'm not going to encourage you to motivate your motivator, because I'm not asking you to go inspire, to try to inspire your inspirer, or I'm not going to ask you to do any of those things. I just want to give you a thought. A thought. Who does it? And if you can't do it, then are you doing the things that cause it easier for that motivator, that inspirer, that speaker into your life? Are you making it easier for them, for him, for her to find more results in others' lives? Or are you making it easier for them, him, or her to navigate freely in their own life with feeling more than just circumstantially needed? Or are you contributing to him, her, or them feeling like the next phone call is simply what they need, and it would never be about what he, she, them, the motivator, needs? Very important to understand, because in the next 12 to 15 months, it's going to get thick. It's going to get really thick. When I say thick, I mean you're going to need to be engaged with a process, a pattern that successfully is able to feed you. And sometimes I sit and I think of those many who only come calling when their life is calamity filled, or they're not even those. They're people who simply have grown and developed and don't see a need to become more. And I can't help but to think sometimes in my own mind that they'll miss it when it's gone. But the truth is, many don't. Most don't. They simply enjoy the moment where they're being fed and they're receiving. But they never turn back like all the other lepers who were healed from what they were diseased with. And only literally most times one or two turn back to say thank you. And you say within yourself as a motivator, I'm talking to individuals who motivate and inspire people, they're going to miss it when it's gone. But unfortunately, that will only bring solace to the mind in the moment of the motivator. Because in reality, they'll simply just hop onto greener pastures. Or should I say, greener pastors. They'll simply just enjoy what they've had and face the rest of their life as it is, with or without you. They'll never look over and see the gain that has come in their life and what is necessary and needed by the person who gave it to receive for their life. So I want to say, well, they'll miss it when it's gone. No, most times they don't. Most times they simply just decide to block it out, or they will simply feast on what you have been and given to them for the rest of their life and believe in all truth and perpetuity that that was it. I want you to take time to think about this week, and then maybe you won't. But your inspirers, your motivators, they need constant supervision. Unfortunately, uh, this comes on the heels of reading, understanding that a colleague of mine was a fine inspirer, a fine motivator she was, and she was doing amazing and profound work in people's lives around the globe. And unfortunately, she was found with a suicide note and video, and the symptoms were there all along. But a lot of other spiritual guidance and motivators, inspirers are so caught up in their own game, and it's always a competition of who's going to get this mix of people that they don't stop to see, to check on the emotional and the spiritual welfare of those who are doing it just like them. So unfortunately, this was not caught by even her colleagues. And in the midst of helping all these people, her problems, her process, her pondering her own purpose while helping others reach theirs, she took her life at the height of all that she was doing. It didn't matter. If you're out there and you're in the position like I am of watching people come and go with your life and never really having all the answers yourself, don't give up. Please don't. I'm working on not giving up on myself as I continue to give life to others. It startled me, it bothered me when I heard of this story. And although I'm not at that place of suicidal tendencies, I can definitely confirm and confer with the understanding of this is just my plight. To give, not to receive. To be, but not be too much, so that those around you don't walk away from you. To feel like a commodity and not a part of a community. To try your best to be vulnerable and relational and never find yourself in the vitality of relationship. These are the type of things that we will discuss. It will be EP Raw on the new platform, and these are some of the comments or things that I will engage with. But on a very good note, in that downtime, in that place where I have been in deep pontification and deliberation, I have been searching for more answers as it comes to the Hebrew is you and the Hebrew in you subject matter. I've taken a lot of time and have heaped onto myself an abundance of reading and research and historical data that is necessary to take this thing to a whole different place. And in doing that research and in doing that time of historical understanding and finding data, I've come across a very clear way to design the teaching of our, I'm switching gears, y'all. That was a segue. Of a design to take the student through a rabbinical teaching process from student to scholar in this thing. I've probably heaped on over the past 2 months. I've probably heaped on, gosh, 70 to 80, and this is probably a short number, 70 to 80 different manuscripts and historical pieces and books and literature that deal with understanding maps and all kinds of stuff that help to understand, to receive a better revelation of the truth of the Hebrew. And as I'm going through the process, what I want to drop on you today is like streams and ponds and lakes that flow into a river. I've uncovered what I believe is three nominal ways, three clear ways that will lead, that can lead the student, you, from a place of student to scholar in truth and understanding. I want to give you those three channels that I believe pour into the river of truth on this Hebrew subject. I would that you would understand the totality of this, the natural and the spiritual, the historical and the data. There are three different ways that I believe that any person who really is attacking this information could charter down to take their students, those listening, their watchers, their followers, from a place of true discipleship of understanding of this Hebrew thing. And as I deliberated between many different sub channels, each sub channel that I thought was a main channel, follow me here. Each sub road or channel that I thought was a main road, as I begin to think and deliberate and disseminate information, eventually each one of those many dozens of sub channels that I thought were main channels or main roads became veins or like outlets, a part of one of these three ultimate channels that flow into the ocean of understanding. I like that. Flows into the ocean of understanding. And although some were smaller areas that I thought were larger areas, that if I unpacked these smaller areas that at the time when I was uncovering or discovering them, or they were being discovered to me or uncovered to me by Yeshua HaMashiach, by the Ruach HaKodesh, I soon learned that they were pipelines. I learned that they were streams. Some were larger and they were rivers, channels, like the Nile. They flowed from, but eventually each one of these subjects found their place connected to aspect 1, 2, or 3. And then I took all three of the major categories after I took all the information, and this is what will be uncovered on the subscription-based platform, because it's just too much information to worry about when a public social media platform would decide that's too much. Because when we start going in about stuff, we're going to go in about stuff. And the issue is that when we start going in about stuff, I don't want anyone telling me you can't say that, you can't do this, and Facebook jail and YouTube, you can't do that, those type of things. And Periscope is a little more liberal, but
The reason for designing this is so that those who want to be there are there on purpose, and so that I don't have to be segmented, or I don't have to be censored in even when I say. So these are the things. Each of these will be uncovered as we walk through a very purpose process of uncovering the process, which is the Hebrew in you and the Hebrew is you. But there was one out of the three. There was one out of the three areas that really stuck out, that I believe wholeheartedly is the main source. It is the valve. It is the main source, the Victorian River source, if I could, that feeds the Nile, that feeds the other categories, and that the other categories feed off of. Follow me. It may not make much sense, but keep with me. Let me let me just go ahead and expose those three areas, and the third area will be the area or the channel that I will focus on moving forward, and then branch off and include the other two areas as we enter into your ocean of understanding from student to scholar. Along the way, I will be the subscription based process will offer monthly books that will come a part of your subscription, manuscripts, data that is not openly findable, or I mean, it's searchable, but it's not openly given to the public. Spending a lot of time with a lot of scholars and a lot of great thinkers who 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 have taken time in different areas to make themselves more than proficient, but make themselves the utmost authority. And I will have them on. I will have them on the broadcast, podcast, radio. I will have them on that channel. But let's talk about those three, and then we'll be done for the day. Let me introduce those three. When dealing with the Hebrew is you and the Hebrew in you, which is the ultimate understanding that you've been duped and you've been lied to for generations of time about who is Jew and who is Gentile. Ultimately, it is not ultimately, and I said this originally as a premise every single time. This is not about racism. This is not about just exposing who's who and what's what. There are, because if it's not just about, it's not just about that. It's not about that. The number one reason why has to be done is because the biblical principles, the prophecies for the earth to be understood, must be understood by observing the right people, the right places, and the right things accurately. If you are not observing the right people, places, and things accurately, then all of your factual information becomes misinformation simply because, well, you're following the wrong people. If I give you a map and tell you how to get from Florida to Georgia, and I turn the map on its side and tell you that this road travels east and west and not north and south, and you follow that map, you're going to find yourself right smack dead in the middle of the ocean. That's what's been going on. We've been fed in misinformation and lies on purpose to keep you from understanding where we stand as it pertains to biblical process and prophecies, and where we really are in the earth. There are many prophecies that many have said this is fulfilled, that's fulfilled, and that's fulfilled. But if you're watching the wrong people, places, and things, then you will put a stamp on finished or final or completed on certain areas that are not. And then you will also be disengaged from processes that are not completed that you never knew of. That's what this is ultimately about. So as I'm venturing down under the understanding of the Hebrew is you and the Hebrew in you, there are three ways that I believe are the utmost ways that one could begin taking themselves
or as I rabbinically take others down that journey. The first area would be to focus on the current inhabitants of Jerusalem and breaking down how it is impossible, based upon the historical data, that they are the people, that they are Hebrew, that they are of any tribe of northern or the northern and the southern or the southern kingdoms of Hebrews. But you would run into a problem, and I'm just going to unpack a little bit of it. I'm not going to go into the detail. These are things that I'm going to review and rehearse again at a more elaborate level in days to come. This is important for you to understand, because I want you to understand how much deception goes into this process. By focusing on the inhabitants, the current inhabitants of Jerusalem, even now, Israel, you could do so, and you could uncover from the Ashkenazis, the Khazarians, the Rothschilds. You could go back all the way to the Caucasus Mountains, and that's an area where I begin to divulge and break open information from an original standpoint, from an opening standpoint. But you're going to run into some problems there. See, since that time, the individuals who, since 1948, when the United Nations, and that wasn't a long time ago, 1948, the United Nations gave Israel to the inhabitants that are there now. They just decreed it. These individuals who were given in 1948, that were given the area where the Palestinians once inhabited, and these where the wars came from. The Palestinians were they were bombing because they were angry, and we'll get into that historical data. But the reason these individuals who were given in 1948 the land of Israel, Jerusalem, these individuals are the major factors now in the earth. And I'll tell you exactly what that means as we move forward. Not today. That's why you need to stay tuned. And so these current inhabitants, having not just, if they were given Jerusalem and Israel, imagine what type of power and influence they formerly had in the earth before 1948, to be given such a territory with no claims to the area. Imagine the power they had then, but imagine the power that they have now. So when going down that path of focusing on the current inhabitants of Israel and making that the sole subject of how you are proving that the Hebrew is you, the Hebrew in you, you will run into the problem that they now yield power in the very subjects. Pardon me, my mustache is tickling me. In the very subjects that you are looking to uncover. I want you to imagine that not only do they have access to Jerusalem, but all the records and all the data and all of the writings and all of the buildings and all of the manuscripts and all of these things are housed in Jerusalem, of which they have now been given power. So anything that you verify must come from. So that's where you run into a problem with that. The second area that I believe, I know through research and development, is to focus. The second stream or the area would be to focus on the DNA of the known Hebrews, you, me. To follow the trail, to follow our trail, DNA-wise, from
the continent of North America back to the continent of Africa. Not the people, the continent. That's the reason why I'm saying that. And you will be able to divulge, okay, so this DNA, my DNA is strongly connected to this area of the continent. Excuse me, the continent, and my DNA is connected to this, and ancestry.com and all these other places. Ooh, but then you will run into a major problem. You see, the major problem that you'll run into is that you're still needing to fact check your DNA based upon a system that has been designed to keep you in the unknown. A current system, just like the first, in following the current inhabitants and disproving their claim to the land, while they currently inhabit the land that you are trying to disprove, you'll run into the problem with the second area because the DNA that you need to match it by is a field of genetics that is ran by the same people. I'm not talking about you taking DNA out and taking it to your doctor. No. It is a very small knit, not national, small knit international, an international group or company of people that are the gatekeepers to, think about it, DNA. If I check my DNA by places around the world, there would have to be some governing body or governing bodies that receive or take that data from other times, other people, other dispensations, and they have a database of what bloodline came from where. But if it does not serve the purpose, or if the purpose is to keep you in the unknown, then the system that you're checking your DNA by is another process that you would have to fact find at a deeper level when you and I are not geneticists. Big problem. I'm not talking about the small problems. This isn't a conspiracy hoax or theories that come up with. I had to go through each of my three lists and even more than three, and I had to I just like I do with all of my historical and spiritual data. I don't just take my spiritual I don't take my spiritual acuity and say, oh, that's it. No, I check it by what I believe, and I check it by what I don't believe, and I check it by what I don't know. I don't go into something saying that's got to be it because I believe this. I have to prove it to be truth on every single level. Spiritually, emotionally, biologically, etymology, historically. So as the list trimmed down, these are the ones that still held weight. And I understood that the barriers between the first two that I've given you, the barriers would be great, but they are not insurmountable. However, because they have very high barriers, it would not behoove me to start at such a height and try to dig through that wall with a spoon. There's a third. 1, 2, 3. Third area that I am convinced is the smart, the precise, and the wise way to enter. The third way I would call the eraser marks, or seeing through the eraser. I believe, through dreams, visions, and otherwise, that Yahweh has given, let me just say it this way before I go there, and I'm almost done, literally. Yeah, we're almost done here.
about 10 more minutes. So, when I was growing up, I was given pencils in classrooms as a pencil. And on the edge of that pencil, there was always an eraser. And most times, that eraser was not enough to get rid of the marks, the numbers, the letters, the shapes, the patterns on the paper. And so many times it would be just, I would have completed in grade school, in elementary school, in high school, in college. I would write so much that it would not be beneficial for me to erase the entire page, because the data and the information that was on the rest of the page was vital and did not need to be corrected, but some things needed to be erased. So they would give you this. I would go get this in school. You get these pink erasers, or sometimes they would smell like blueberry or whatever else. And most times it was just a yellow, or a pink eraser, and you would have beside your desk, because a lot of times that if you would use the eraser on top of the pencil far too much, and that as you would get down to where the piece of metal or metal material met the eraser, you would be scratching away so hard that you would rip the paper, and it would be evident that in the presentation of the final paper to your professor or your teacher would show the error by the rips. And the last thing you want to have or to show are the rips. So you had an eraser. Then it wasn't beneficial to simply take the page and crumple it up. No, because it was already established. This is the same course of action that, as I begin to uncover this final area of going into the Hebrew issue, is to, watch this, is to follow the erased material. Now, that's kind of, I guess that would be counterintuitive, because how do you follow something that's been erased? I believe wholeheartedly, I believe this with every fiber of my being, that Yahweh has given some the ability in the earth to see with black light precision. Formerly, I was in law enforcement, and the use of a black light when it came to certain crimes, albeit murder, there's a gnat, albeit murder, you would have very savvy people who would use bleach after a murder, and they would clean so extravagantly well that it would even fool the nose of a dog trained, canine trained to sense blood, because of the way the molecules and the way the setup of bleach is. And with no evidence, you would have no ability to process a crime. And then when that became hard to keep from scientific discovery over the past 20, 25, 30 years, other substances became known where they would literally erase, and I go into detail. I use illustrations from the mob and different things, but to erase even the scent detail. There is a black light. When that black light is turned on, that even if I'm not able to understand or to identify the fluid, I can identify that it was definitely with the black light, that it was definitely scrubbing and rubbing going on. And then at that point, it's up to the investigator, the detective, to be able to launch an investigation and follow the trail of the smears of unknown substance. I believe that's what Yahweh has given to many prophets and many historians and many teachers who you will meet along this journey on this new platform that have the ability to identify with black light precision. By following, and I'm almost done here, by following the erased material. The purpose of erasing is not to ever to go back to uncover it. Over time, history, and understand this, that history is generally more than likely written by the victor. Understand that statement. History is written or understood by the victor. It is written by the victor. So it doesn't matter if the victorious are good or evil. History is written by the victor. You have to keep that in consideration as you send your children to school. As you read literature, you better make sure that you search and divulge completely who's writing and why, and what side of victory were they on, the losing side or the winning side. And have things been written or erased for the propping up of the winners. What I'm going to focus on as I begin to unravel the Hebrew in you is to focus on the erased material. Well, how do you know it's erased if it's been erased? Well, that's that black light understanding that I'm giving you. What I'm trying to help you to understand is that when someone erases something and writes over it, the understanding is not to go back and erase what they've written over it to make sure that what they erased is gone. No. When something is erased, it's erased never to be discovered again. Those who have erased history, so to speak, have never returned to erase data to check to see if it's still erased, because they've written over it, never to go back to it again. What you are dealing with in the first two categories that I gave you are the problem with even making those the problem with me making those your invitation to student, from school student to scholar, would be the fact that those first two are current systems that are utilized by those victors of history, as they are current systems that are used to keep you off the trail. What do you mean, EP? Every time you come close, there's a book that I will uncover in the very near future as one of the first books I will make available for free for those under the subscription package. It's important to, in that book, you will find that this book has been around for the past 50 to 60 years. And the amount of wealth of truth that was given and written in these books were not touched by the powers that be until they were able to ascertain power over DNA, over historical data. And when enough time had gone by and they now were the holders of the gatekeepers of these areas, then they begin to debunk it 50, 60 years later after it was written and after the author died. How convenient now that you want to begin to dismantle or try to dismantle truth as now you are the holders of that. It's kind of like someone goes and murders someone. The murder is covered up. The investigators, or the family over 2 or 3 generations, find out who it was. But then by the time they find out who it was, that person who murdered has moved in from just being, let's just call it, let's just say a police officer who murdered someone. They're no longer just a police officer who murdered someone and got away with it temporarily. They move from there to
county sheriff's position, and they moved from the county sheriff's position to a prosecutor, and now they are a judge, and now they are a federal judge, or now they have supreme power. And here you are coming with all this evidence, and they're saying, I now run every channel that you have to go through to expose this truth. What am I saying? I'm saying that the first two focus areas are current systems that the powers that be, that those in the inhabitants, or the current inhabitants still utilize. Every time there's one step closer to uncover the Hebrew in you, the Hebrew is you, then there is a current system that is not erased, that is a working, breathing system, that every time you get one step closer, they just change the data. You better get with this. Come on. Erased from the Tuskegee experiments are gone. Erased. And then when you finally get there, there's nothing but loose data that does not really show who was what and what was where and why. Why? Because they've consolidated all their resources to make this living system continue to be a living, lying system that will always throw you off by what? Changing the data. Because why? They are the key holders and the ones who have written history. But when you get to erased data, when you follow erased data, if you follow erased data, anyone that comes after you, around you, sniffing around you, as you are sniffing at areas that have been erased, they can't get too close to you because they worked to kill, to erase that data. So any attempt that they make to do anything to sabotage what they have erased and don't have a living system, a working system to change or alter, if they come anywhere near the erased data, it exposes them. I'm sorry, why are you around here? Oh, I was just in the neighborhood. How are you in the neighborhood? If the powers that be, or those who have erased data, come anywhere within significant distance of your searching, it will show you that you're on the right path. Where I plan on starting in erased data is Africa. I plan on uncovering, even starting next week. Well, let me go into it just for a minute here. That the African American title was given to you and I to throw us off of a trail of erased data. Let me say it like this. Before Africa, more of the world was brown. There's proof of that. But everyone in Africa ain't African. Join me next week when I begin to break down your understanding of erased data, and the first erased data will be dealing with the erased maps that they meant to destroy and erase in plain view, and how these maps, written right over by data, will prove as the first areas of erased data that you are not African American.
And that as you search with me on those erased data lines, you'll find that you are indeed, in fact, unequivocally, you are what's known as